We start at the Yongsu-rai film set. In the set, several actors and staff are talking to each other as they prepare the scene. We then see a young man reading a script diligently, and beside him was an old man yawning, seemingly tired. The old man asks why he's reading the script when he's just an extra. Frustrated, the young man told him that he's actually an actor, but the old man joked and brushed it off. The young man then shoved the script in his face and enunciated the word supporting actor written on it. And he doesn't plan on stopping only at that either. The old man smiled and asked, does he think he's here because he also wants to stay as just an extra? No, and so he gets where the young man is coming from. The young man gets this, however, today is different as they're in a big director's set. Director Kang, one of the top directors in the Korean movie industry. The director shouted to the crowd to stop the small talk, as moments later, the camera starts rolling. As then, the scenery suddenly changes, the sky turns yellow, and countless banners and weapons were raised. Thousands of armored soldiers littered the ground as the people defending the castle were throwing rocks downwards. Thousands of people were fighting as the chaos ensued. This was supposed to be done through CGI, and not to mention, there were suddenly so many extras, so the young man was utterly confused. He wondered how much money they spent on this to make it so realistic. The Japanese army on the ground then took aim as they shot the people on the castle. As the people on the walls fell, they put ladders down to try and scale the massive wall. As the Japanese army breached the wall, it was now the young man's turn to act. And so, he steeled himself to stay focused. The people inside the castle charged, including the young man and the old man from before. The young man commented that the old man seems to be acting energetic today. As then, the galloping of a horse was heard. A samurai sat atop it as he slashed at the old man. Seeing this scene, the young man wondered how the old man was acting so realistic, like he is truly dying. But then, he realized something. There should be a cut right now, but he doesn't see the director anywhere. In the script, he also should be dead by now, and so, he acted as if he was dying and closed his eyes. However, the noise of the chaos still goes on, and he realized there still isn't a cut. Moments later, he opened his eyes, and the battle seems to be over as the opposing army retreated. The soldiers congratulated each other, and seeing this, the young man thinks the scene is over and they were now in a cut. He goes to wake up the old man, but he wouldn't budge. He thinks he's just sleeping, and as he turned him over to wake him up, he was amazed by the realistically made fake blood. However, when he turned him over, he was shocked by what he saw. He covered his mouth, and with shaking hands, he slowly reached for the old man's mouth. And when it was finally there, he realized that he's not breathing. The old man is really dead. He shivered in fear as he realized the situation. He slowly calmed down and then got up, taking a look at the battlefield. The people were getting rid of the remnants of the enemies. As then, someone called out to him, touching him on the shoulder. He was startled by this as he looked at who it was. Seeing it was one of the actors, he informed him that Mr. Kim, the old man, just died. However, the person had a dumbfounded look as the young man babbled on. He patted him on the shoulder, telling the young man that he knows. In the young man's mind, however, he thinks of calling 911 as he thought someone just died on set. He tries to convince the other person that people are really dying, but he was met with a slap on the face. The person then told him that this is the battlefield, where hundreds or even thousands die every day. The young man clenched the ground as he convinces himself that this is all just a dream. But as he looks at the lifeless body of the people who died, he couldn't take it and suddenly passed out. Moments later, he opened his eyes and saw that it was already dark. As then, a silhouette of someone came to him. It was a little girl. She brought a bowl of soup of some kind. As the young man took a look at the bowl, he saw the reflection of the battlefield staring back, which made his stomach churn. A person walked by them, and he asked what happened to Mr. Kim. The person just shook his head, which told him all that he needed to know. As he sulked, the little girl tried to comfort him by holding his hands as she stared at him. She then picks up the bowl and puts it beside him. He then takes a look around and saw some soldiers chattering. On the other hand, there were people grieving the loss of loved ones, while some people were screaming in pain due to their injuries. Some just looked lifeless as they stared blankly. As then, a person came to him, telling him that even if he's not hungry, he should eat something. The young man wondered who it was, and as he looked, he called him sir. That's because it was the star actor Kim Myung-jin, the lead of this movie. He then told him to get better as their lord is personally leading the army, and once he does so, they should be able to chase the enemy soon. And so, try to survive until then, as they need to give everything to protect their land. Hearing this, the young man just agreed as Myung-jin then left. Taking his advice, he ate the food that the little girl brought. Afterwards, the little girl asked him if he came from Hanyang. Not knowing what to tell her, the young man just told her yes. She then told him that she wants to go there too, and the young man replied that she can go when she gets the chance, which made the little girl smile. He also told her that if it gets hard, then he'll take her there, and the little girl asked that if everything is over, can she go with him. Seeing this scene unfold, the young man was conflicted. It felt too real to be a dream, but he also knows that it's impossible to be real. And so, he convinces himself that it has to be a dream and asked himself when he will wake up. Suddenly, the whistle of an arrow flew across the night as the two saw its shining tip coming their way. The little girl pushed the young man aside as she was the one who got hit. The little girl laid in his arms as her final words is that she wants to go to Hanyang too. Seeing this, he was utterly devastated as he screamed and cursed loudly. As then, he heard the sound of someone shouting cut. He took a look around and was dumbfounded as someone called out to him. It was the little girl, asking him if he could let go of her now. As he did so, he suddenly fell on the ground as he slowly passed out. In the studio, we can see a monitor previewing the shoot that just happened. There was a man sat in front of the computer screen reviewing the footage. It was director Kang, wondering about something as he watched the footage. He sat back on the chair and asked the man beside him who the kid on screen was. The man didn't know his name as he has such a small role, and so the director dismissed him. Director Kang wondered how an extra can act so well. What the kid did wasn't on the script, so he doesn't know if he could use it, but he finds it a waste to only throw away. Inside of a train, we could see the young man from before in his normal appearance without the costume. He wondered if he's crazy as what he experienced felt too real to be a dream. Getting out of the train, he contemplated about what he should do now. He doesn't know if he can even act anymore after what happened. Lost in thought, he arrived at his apartment, commenting that after going through what he experienced, home felt oddly comforting. He quickly laid on his bed as he reflected more if what he went through was real or not. He got an idea as he suddenly got up. He turned on his PC and swiftly got on it. There, he searched things about movies turning into reality, supernatural phenomena, and delusions. He did that until the sun comes up and it was now the next day. He needs to go to work again now. On his way there, he stopped briefly outside the hospital in hopes of maybe getting diagnosed. But seeing that he doesn't have much money, he decided against it and just go to his job. He worked at a car wash, washing and cleaning the cars to provide for himself as his acting career isn't enough to do so. When he was done, he wished his boss goodbye as he made his way to the film shoot. While there, he realized nothing much changed as he then took out his script from his backpack. Interrupting him, a man called out his name, which we only find out now to be Kim Man-seong, and told him that the director wants to see him. Arriving at where the director was, he saw that he was talking to Kim Myung-jin, the one playing the lead of this movie. Myung-jin noticed him, and the two stopped conversing. They then bid farewell as Myung-jin left. While leaving, he spoke to Man-seong, saying his acting yesterday was unforgettable. Man-seong was dumbfounded by this compliment, but the director called for him, so the two also separated. Director Kang asked Man-seong if he wanted to play a larger part in the movie. Hearing this, Man-seong thought it was finally his chance to shine, so he smiled widely. The director told him that although not much, he'll have dialogue and it's also a role important for the flow of the story. Not thinking much, he accepted quickly as he then asked what role he will be playing. And the director told him that it will be a prisoner of war, one who will die after getting tortured. In the next moment, it was now nighttime and Man-seong is tied up in a chair trying to convince himself that this is just acting. He tries to plead that he might be tied up too tightly, but the staff replied that if it's loose, then it'll make it not realistic. He persuades himself that there must be a trick to what he experienced. He still thinks that what happened to him last time was some sort of visual effects. He worked so hard to get such an opportunity, so he was determined to not let it go easily. It was then that the camera starts rolling, and just like last time, when he blinked he finds himself in a different place. He swallowed his saliva as he came face to face with the sharp blade. As then, the person holding the blade asked the bound prisoners to talk. However, the bound people cursed at him, stating that they wouldn't do so even if they died. Hearing this, the person with the blade just licked it. Then Man-seong spoke, but then he stuttered as he forgot his lines. To improvise, he spat at the captor, which pissed him off. Man-seong closed his eyes and tries to still assure himself that all of this is just acting, but as he opened it, he saw the person beside him getting slashed by their captor. Seeing that scene made him shake uncontrollably. The captor then moved to another person, bringing his blade on his neck as Man-seong watched the horrifying scene unfold. He just saw a person getting beheaded, so he thinks the people behind the production have gone rogue, and they're really killing people. He cries and pleads for them to stop. As then, the head of the person beside him came rolling at his feet. Looking at it, he cursed at the people involved. Seeing this, the captor put the blade at his neck, ordering him to talk about the way to Sanseong. But Man-seong just cursed at him and told him to hurry up and kill him. And so, the captor raises his blade as Man-seong looks at his oncoming demise. Man-seong thinks he is really dying, as memories of his parents, his time at the army, and his first love who got stolen flashes before his eyes. He'll die without accomplishing anything, so he let out a desperate groan. As then, he was suddenly falling, and at his sight was his own separated body. However, a person shouting "cut" brings him back to reality once again. All the staff at the production were awed, and even the lead, Moonjin, clapped for Man Seong, saying his acting was really impressive. Director Kang smiled satisfied at Man Seong's performance, but then one of his staff called out to him saying that Man Seong was passed out. At the hospital, Man Seong woke up with cold sweat. He tries to feel his neck to see if it's still attached. As then, he heard someone asking if he's feeling better. Taking a look, he saw that it was Go Joo-yoon, a famous actress, so he thinks he's still dreaming. He slaps his cheeks but to no avail. He then touched his neck and asked Joo-yoon if he's alive right now. Hearing this, Joo-yoon just smirked and gave him a drink. She then told him that she saw his acting and was impressed, then immediately left. At this interaction, Man Seong scratched his head. Months passed, and the filming for the movie ended. The staff bid their farewell as they go on their separate ways. Much later, it was finally the premiere of the movie titled 1593 Hingju Castle. Man Seong was staring at the poster smiling. As then, someone called out to him. He found the voice familiar, and looking at the direction of the person, he found that it was Go Joo-yoon. Joo-yoon asked him how he's doing, and wondered why he's outside when the movie's about to start. And so, the two goes inside together. In the theater, the movie starts and the room gradually darkens. The screen shows the title of the movie, Hingju Castle. As the audience watches, they saw the scenes that was enacted. They commented that the producers were crazy as they even showed the gory scenes. And when it was Man Seong's scenes, they were amazed and astonished by his superb acting skills. Taken aback by his realistic acting, they wondered who he is and wondered if maybe he's a rising star as he's extremely good. The audience's jaw dropped as they watched the realistically accurate portrayal on the screen. And finally, it was the end credits. An announcer goes on stage and presents the cast of the movie as they go on stage. As the interview goes on, it was mainly director Kang and Moonjin who was bantering on stage. In the audience, Man Seong clapped as he saw the show. As he was clapping, he clenched his hands and vowed that one day, he will also get to go on that stage as an actor. Afterwards, everyone left the theater including Man Seong. As he was leaving, he heard some people gossiping which interested him. At first they talked about Moonjin and his role as the general, but afterwards, they talked about the kid who got his head cut off, which is Man Seong. They complimented his acting, and hearing this, Man Seong smiled. They might not know who he is, but they remember his acting. And that was enough for now. But then, waiting for the elevator, someone called out his name. It was a formal-looking woman asking if they can have a short talk. She then gave him her business card, which read Yoon Seo-yoon from MS Entertainment. Realizing what company she is from, Man Seong immediately asked what they want from him. The woman replied, "Does he really not know?" and reveals that she is here to scout him. Afterwards, we see Man Seong nervously staring as he was in front of the huge skyscraper that is the MS Entertainment building. Inside the building, he comes across a good-looking man with red hair and thinks that he must be a celebrity. In his mind, he wondered if a place like this were really going to scout him. The woman looked pretty nice, so it doesn't seem like a scam. In the next moment, the woman from before greeted Man Seong, thanking him for coming to MS Entertainment, and then the woman explained the terms of the contract and they go on to the signing part. However, Man Seong doesn't have any idea about everything she talked about. He just guessed that it must be a pretty good deal. The woman then presented him the paper. Man Seong was excited as he will finally become a real actor, and so he quickly picked up his pen. She told him that the contract in front of him is the best deal he could obtain for someone at his level, and even the officials at MS were arguing whether they should give such a contract. The woman asked him if he got what she was saying, and Man Seong had a dumbfounded look, not knowing what she is implying. And so, she elaborated, saying her neck is on the line and she'll be affected if this contract were to not bear fruit in the future. Because of that, there's no need for him to worry. She doesn't necessarily believe in him, but in her ability to discern people. And with this, Man Seong signed the contract. But as he was signing, the woman told him to wait as he missed a section. It was the most important part, so he shouldn't miss it, so she signs it for him. Man Seong was dumbfounded as he realized it says he'll get 5 million on the contract. But the woman reprimanded him, asking if his eyes are that bad. Their company isn't that small after all. And so, he recounted the zeros again and realizes that it's actually not 5 million but instead 50 million. Man Seong's eyes widened in disbelief as he looked at the number. Afterwards, Man Seong goes on a shopping spree. He bought new clothes and even got himself a new, nicer apartment. He got on his phone as he talked to his mom and siblings about his newfound success. Later that night, he was at the bar with friends as they congratulate him. One of his friends joked that maybe he'll even get to go on kissing scenes with famous actresses, and his other friend shot him down, saying Man Seong just debuted. Man Seong smiled at their banter as they go on to drink through the night. The next day, Man Seong was sleeping, but he was woken up by his doorbell. Opening the door, he found that it was the person with red hair from before, and Man Seong wondered why a celebrity is at his door. The person spoke and told him that he's 10 minutes late, and Man Seong replied, asking who he is. The person gave him his card reading, Moon Jong-bi, a manager from MS Entertainment. It was then that he remembered that they told him that a manager is coming. At a cafe, Jong-bi introduces himself again, saying he'll be taking care of his schedules from now on. He told him that he heard a lot about Man Seong as Chief Yoon, specifically asked for him. Man Seong then told Jong-bi that since he's older, then he could speak casually with him. But Jong-bi denied it, saying it's fine. Afterwards, they talked about work, and Jong-bi presented him with a script titled Hunter of the Night. Man Seong saw that his role is set as repairman, so he asked what exactly that entails. Jong-bi replied that he will die from stabbings, which surprised Man Seong. He elaborated further, stating that his role entails a man that dies after getting stabbed multiple times by a serial killer. Hearing this, Man Seong's hand shook as he asked if Jong-bi thinks he could do well in this role. Jong-bi reassured him that as long as he acted like he did in the last movie, then he will do great. He told him that his acting on that film was the best he's seen, especially the one when he got his neck cut off. Hearing this, Man Seong had a deadpan look. He assured him further that this script is perfect for him. However, Man Seong is hesitant after what he experienced last time. He imagined the scenario in his mind, a serial killer chasing him down and eventually catching up, then stabbing him multiple times with a knife. Bringing him out of his thoughts, Jong-bi asks how he is so good with roles where he is dying. He clarified further, saying, the emotion in his eyes when the blade came in, it was the best that he's seen. In Man Seong's mind, he knows the answer clearly, it's because he wasn't acting and he was actually dying. However, he didn't say it out loud. Instead, he asked if he really had to take this role. Jong-bi replied that he doesn't have to if he doesn't want to, which gave hope to Man Seong. But of course that would be against the contract. Man Seong was dumbfounded, but Jong-bi stated that it seems he didn't read the contract properly. He then presented him the contract and pointed him to the exact statement clearly written. He expanded further, saying, not only will the contract be nullified, but he will also get immediately sued. And if the reason is from the actor, the company will get a full return of the contract plus 10% extra. Back at his apartment, Man Seong contemplated whether he should go on with it. But then he remembered the people relying on him, his mom, his friends, and the people who got him hired. And so, he got up on the couch and immediately dialed Jong-bi. He still had second thoughts, but he decided to go with it. When the call connected, he told him that he'll do the role. He arrived at the studio and there were a lot of people gathered. It's not like he's actually dying, he reassured himself once more as he walked through the door. As then, before he could go through it, someone bumped onto him. Looking up, he saw that it was Ahn Jeong-woo, the main actor and the one who will play the serial killer's role. Looking at his face made him overlap with the serial killer's face, which sent shivers on Man Seong's spine. Afterwards, the two just stared at each other as an awkward aura ensued. Then, Jeong-woo averted his gaze as he goes on his way. Looking at his back, Man Seong wondered just what that interaction was. In the script reading room, the actors were gathered in a rectangular table with their scripts on hand. As then, footsteps were heard heading for the room as the people on the table turned their heads. It was Ahn Jeong-woo. He was considered as a genius actor, so the people in the room gossiped about him. Meanwhile, the people who worked with him before greeted him. He's good looking and has the acting skills to back it up. He's not picky with roles, but does every single one of them well, and now he's one of the biggest stars of Chung-moo-ro. And right now he's getting attention for his role as a serial killer. And Man Seong is in the same movie with someone like that. He wonders when he will become like that, but he decides to stop useless thoughts and just focus on the script. Little did he know, the people around him were also gossiping about his performance in Heenju Castle. He reads diligently as a man named Kim Chan-woo sat beside him. He called out to Man Seong and Man Seong recognized the man. Kim Chan-woo, one of the few middle-aged movie stars in the Korean industry. He started out late, but managed to be successful. He even had 3 movies with over 10 million viewers. Man Seong was going to bow to be respectful, but Chan-woo says it's fine and to stay seated. They shook hands and introduced each other. Looking at Jeong-woo, Man Seong wonders how he's going to act the part of a serial killer. It was then that the person in charge of the script reading arrived and decided to start. They started with the scene where a man bumps into the serial killer at night in an alleyway with no people around. The scene will be enacted by Ahn Jeong-woo and Jang Deok-hyun. Deok-hyun then started reading the script and acted as if he was on the phone with his wife. Then he bumped into Jeong-woo and he apologized. But Jeong-woo got angry and threatens him. Deok-hyun replied that he only bumped him a little, but Jeong-woo got even angrier. At this performance, the director was satisfied, so they decided to go on to the next scene. The others enacted their respective scenes and finally, it was Man Seong's turn. Man Seong got nervous as it seems everyone is staring at him. All the actors and especially the director were paying close attention. He got ready to start as he flipped the pages of the script. He read the script, however, it didn't flow smoothly. The people expecting something were thoroughly disappointed. But Jiang-woo on the other hand was smiling. Man Seong lowered his head, wondering why he can't do it smoothly, as then a hand patted him on the shoulder. It was Chan-woo who told him to not worry too much and relax a little. Man Seong thanked him, but then, at the corner of his eyes, he saw Jiang-woo staring at him intently. After a while, the script reading goes smoothly and Man Seong is now leaving the studio. He reflected on the hard script reading and his tight schedule. As then, his manager Jong-bi called out to him, picking him up in a car. Man Seong was confused, asking if picking him up is supposed to be part of the contract. And Jong-bi replied why Man Seong is asking as if this is weird, and told him to hurry up and get in. The next day, the crew are at a filming location. They are filming the scene where the serial killer fights and stabs a bystander. The director called the cut, and he applauded, satisfied with the performance. Man Seong was also there watching the scene, as they haven't gotten to his part yet. But the director suddenly shouted that they will shoot one more scene before going to the next location. He then goes up to Man Seong and asks him to get prepared, as they're shooting the first witness murder scene. Man Seong was confused, as his scene should be in a different location. But Chan-woo clarified that since it's a similar looking dark alleyway, no one in the audience would notice, so it's a good way to cut production costs. Man Seong got nervous, as this is too sudden. He flipped through his script one last time, and it was his scene where he gets stabbed and dies in a violent fashion. Seeing this made him drop his script. The director then reminded Jiang-woo that it needs to be 13 stabs in total. He then goes to Man Seong and asks him if he's ready. Man Seong replied yes, but he is sweating profusely. The camera then starts rolling and the director shouted action. Right before Man Seong's eyes, the staff and film crew disappears as the scenery changes. Man Seong noted that something is different from the last time he went through this. He feels nauseated along with a throbbing headache. As then, he wonders where he is as he is running suddenly, not knowing why he is running. He looked behind him to try and see the person chasing him, as he hurriedly hastened his steps. He ran and ran, as then, the silhouette of a person manifested itself in front of him. He abruptly stopped and the silhouette became clearer as he saw a glimpse of the murderer's eyes. He breathed heavily and suddenly, he came back to reality. It was then that he realized he's getting memories that he hasn't actually experienced. He wonders if this is from the script, but he came to the conclusion that it must be this character's memories. As then, we see the film tape start rolling as Man Seong gets into character. He walked under the singular lamp in the alleyway. He commented that he maybe drank a little too much. But then, he heard people talking around the corner. They were seemingly arguing, and curious, Man Seong decides to take a peek. One person is angrily talking to a hooded figure, asking if he's crazy. He commented that the hooded figure was the one who bumped into him first, but he's the one overreacting. The hooded figure only had a deadpan look as he heard this. He then looks around and sees that the coast is clear. Little did he know, Man Seong was watching right around the corner. The figure then pulled out his knife, and Man Seong stays in character, acting surprised. Holding the knife, the hooded figure then walked menacingly towards the man. The man tries to act tough at first, but as the hooded person got closer, his act falls apart and he tries to plead and call for help. In the next moment, we see blood splattered on the wall. The hooded figure then ended the man, stating that that's why he should have done his job. Man Seong saw this scene and was flabbergasted. He tries to flee, but as he is doing so, he stepped on a bottle which made a noise. Man Seong had a panicked look as the killer notices and readies his knife. Thinking quickly, Man Seong decides to run for his life in the other direction. He leaned against a wall to catch his breath, asking himself if he just witnessed a murder scene. He is still very much in character as the film tapes rolled. But then, he was awakened from his flow and he suddenly didn't know what's going on. Suddenly, he heard a noise behind him and was startled by it. He looked and found the shadow of a person coming his way. Scared by this, he ran once again and came upon the busy main street. He catched his breath as the bright lights of the street came to view. He wiped his mouth as his eyes slowly adjusted to the lights. But when he finally got a clear view, he was shocked as he didn't know where he was. He felt odd as he saw his surroundings. He saw public baths and the word Daejeon, so he realized he's in Useong-gu in Daejeon, a city in Korea. He doesn't know why he's here when they filmed at a different location. As then, he saw a girl and stopped her to ask something. He asked if this is Daejeon and what year it is, but the girl only stared at him. He asked once again to tell him what year it is, and the girl pulled out something out of her pocket. She presented him a phone, and Man Seong recognized it as a Motorola Static. He then uses it to check the date and he was baffled, as he was in 1995. But then, he remembered something. Jong-bi told him before that the script A Hunter of the Night is based on true events that transpired. It was based on the Useong-gu serial killer case in 1995, and to this day is still unsolved. And now, he finally realizes that he's in that time period. As then, memories started appearing on his mind again. It was a woman and a child smiling happily. He concluded that it must be this person's memories again, so it was probably his family. His body then walked on its own, as if it knew where exactly it was supposed to go. He came out of the busy street and onto some residential houses, as he then arrived at what looks to be an apartment building. Looking at it, he decides to check, and so he goes inside. He walked through the countless steps of the building, as he then came upon an apartment door. He raises his hand to reach for the doorbell, but hesitates suddenly. Taking a deep breath and resolving himself, he rang the button of the doorbell. A person replied from the inside asking to wait for a moment, as then the door opens. What greeted him was a woman, welcoming him with a warm smile, saying it's good that he's back home now. Nanseong didn't know what to feel about this. Interrupting them was the voice of a little boy calling him dad. He hugged and clung to his leg, which surprised Manseong as he didn't know what to do. The woman smiled seeing this and told him to hurry up inside so they can eat. Manseong was still too stunned to speak, as then the boy held up his pinky finger, asking him to promise that they'd go to the expo on the weekend. Looking at the boy, Manseong had a saddened look as he knew the fate of this person. The woman asked him if something is wrong as he seems a little weird. But he just said sorry and then immediately left. Moments later, he was at a park alone, reflecting on his experience. This was very different from what he experienced in his last film. A woman and a kid he doesn't know, seems as if he knows them. And so, he decided to contemplate more about what he knows. This movie is based on the Daejeon province serial killer case, but based on what's happening and what he's experiencing, he concludes that he's not just simply acting it out, but is actually living the life of the actual victim of the case. And so, he doesn't know what he should do. The next day, he arrived at a store called Korea Electronics. It was this person's workplace. He walked back and forth in front of the store, although he had some memories of working. He didn't know what to do after going in. But, since this is an electronics store, he could learn more about his situation here. He goes inside and was awed by the ancient computer used at the store. Although old, it still did its job as he was able to skim through the news with it. But, as he looked, he saw that there are no articles about the murder he witnessed yesterday yet. And so, he decides to go to the scene of the crime instead. He arrived at the alleyway but didn't know where exactly it took place as it was dark. He asked himself that if he died here, won't he actually die in real life? As then, he saw an alleyway covered by police tapes. He might actually die here, but he still proceeded and goes into the scene. As he was going in, however, he saw the hooded person once again, walking straight towards him. Facing him, Manseong was stunned. Manseong sweated profusely as the man got closer and closer. However, the hooded figure just goes right past him. Nanseong thinks he didn't recognize him, and so he looked back at the figure. But facing him was the figure also staring right back at him, and so he cursed in his mind. As the atmosphere tensed, the figure then spoke. "You know me, right?" he asked. Nanseong denies it and tries to calm him down. But he saw the twisted expression on the eyes of the figure. He then saw the man's knife as Manseong asks himself if he'll really die here. Then, looking down, he saw the knife embedded on his chest as tears streamed down his face. He struggles for the man to stop, but as the man kept at it, he could only plead for help in his mind. Looking at the floor, his vision gets hazy, as then he heard the sound of a person shouting "cut." As his vision returned, he was blinded by the bright lights as he saw the silhouette of the staff. However, he was still holding on to Jiang-woo and asking for help. Jiang-woo was confused by this, as afterwards, Manseong gets a look at him. It was only when the director told him that it's a cut did he finally come to his senses and realizes he's alive. Moments later, he was sitting in the chair, reflecting on how the feeling of the knife entering his body still lingers. His hand is shaking uncontrollably as he stated that he shouldn't have accepted to do this film in the first place. But then, he remembered something, the Daejeon killer case. And so, he quickly picked up his phone and searched for articles about the case. Looking at them, he concluded that everything he experienced really did take place, which means the killer did too. Interrupting him, a man called out saying the director is asking for him to do one more take. We see the director reviewing the footage that was just shot. Seeing this, he commented that the acting is fine, but the mood is boring. The person beside him noted that it looks fine to them, but the director ignored him asking to do one more take. Back to Manseong, he was utterly shocked as he asked why the director is asking for one more take. The person replied that the director finds the shot boring and asks for a bit more realism. Manseong accepted, but his face says otherwise. Later that night, they were once again at the alley. Just like last time, Manseong encountered the killer again. However, something was different this time, as Manseong is curious about who was behind that mask. He wondered if it could have been the real suspect and not the actor Jiang-woo. As the hooded person got closer, he once again asked if Manseong knows him. Manseong gulped and resolves himself to find out if his theory is correct. However, right at that moment, he couldn't even move. He thought he could handle the situation, but right now, he'll die even before getting close to him. And so, he wondered whether he should proceed with his plan. He kept contemplating in his mind, but as he imagined the scenario, he realizes that he can't do it. The killer then spoke, thanking him for making it easier to find him. Realizing he's close, Man Seong just decides to run. But the killer pulls out his knife and makes chase. He ran as fast as he could, but the killer is faster as his hand reached Man Seong's head. As he grabbed his head, Man Seong was once again stabbed, as he died once more. And just like last time, he heard the director shouting cut and he was back to reality. He laid on the ground and cursed himself for being a coward. He got up and was disappointed in himself as he didn't even attempt to do it. The director then spoke, saying that once again, the acting is fine. But there's something missing. He calls to Man Seong and told him that he should act as if struggling with the energy he has left, rather than just simply dying. He should show the desperation of a man wanting to return to his family to make the killer seem more evil. Hearing this resolved Man Seong, and he states that he'll try one more time. Moments later, he was once again faced with the killer. Even after a couple of takes, he still didn't get it, but he vowed that this time for sure he'll do it. As the killer pulled out his knife, Man Seong told him to wait a second. Man Seong asks why he keeps killing innocent people. Hearing this, the killer replied, how does he know that? And Man Seong realized he messed up. The killer walks closer and asks if he also witnessed the other ones. Seeing this, Man Seong decides to run and buy some time for now. The killer makes chase, and just like before, he tries to grab Man Seong. But Man Seong knows about it as he swiftly dodged. He turns the corner and ran, however, he is quickly losing his breath and he cursed in his mind. He didn't know what to do now. Man Seong sees a light of the morning sun in front of him, and so resolves himself to do it now. It's now or never, he thought. He turned and stood his ground. However, at the next moment, a fist flew straight at his face as he fell on the ground. Both of them had shallow breaths as they've been running for some time. The killer then goes on top of Man Seong and proceeds to stab him. But with his last remaining energy and with shaking hands, he reached for the killer's mask. Pulling it down reveals a man with a creepy looking face. This was not Jiang-woo but the real culprit behind the Daejeon murder case. As his eyes began to close, he saw the killer leaving. And at his last moment, he saw the killer leaving the knife in the wall, as he then heard the director shouting cut. Man Seong lay on the ground as the director sang praises for him. He commented that the take is now perfect, and Man Seong breathed a sigh of relief as his suffering is finally over. Days passed, and Man Seong lay on his bed pondering about the Daejeon serial killer. As he recollects, he definitely saw the man's face along with the knife he stuck on the wall. But he tries to reason to himself that there's no way it was really there. However, curiosity took over him, and he searches the internet where the exact location the crime took place in. In the next moment, we see a bus, and inside it was Man Seong. He doesn't know himself why he's going this far. As he arrived, he got out of the bus and saw that the city had changed a lot since 1995. As he got to the location where it took place, however, he saw that the neighborhood remained more or less the same. Around the corner was supposed to be where the knife was, and as he looked, he saw a shining glint and realized that the knife is still there. He went to the police station to report it, and the police officer asks if he's some kind of reporter. He asks why he's trying to mess with a case that has only 2 months left before getting officially closed. And Man Seong replied, why not just go to the scene to confirm it? And so, although finding it a drag, the police just decides to go along. As they arrived at the scene, Man Seong points the officer towards the place where he saw the knife. Looking at it, the officer was shocked as the knife really was there. And so, he put on his glove and carefully contained the evidence. Afterwards, Man Seong drew the face that he saw. The investigators watches him from a screen outside the room. The older-looking man was surprised, as apparently Man Seong told them that he saw the face of the man in his dreams, and the middle-aged man added that he seems to be working on a movie based on the events. The older-looking man asked what came of the blood tests. There were 7 people who died at the hands of the killer, and the older man added that it might be the spirits of those people who helped solve the case, as none of them couldn't. When Man Seong was done drawing, the portrait was presented to the investigators and they realized something. The older man asked what is it, and the middle-aged man replied that the person Man Seong drew matched the face of the first person selected as the suspect. Realizing this, the older man ordered to gather everyone up. As Man Seong left the station, he passed by countless officers who was hurriedly called. He decided to take a look at the neighborhood and he arrived somewhere familiar. It was the same building where the family of the person he experienced the dream with. He paced back and forth as he didn't know why he even decided to come here. And so, he decides to just leave. As then, passing by him was an adult man along with an older-looking woman. Looking at them, he realized something. They were the wife and the kid from the dream. The two conversed as they were walking. The police informed the son that they found the suspect. The woman had a melancholic look, stating that it was already too late anyways. But the son told her that something is different this time. The woman replied that of course, the sinners needs to be punished. and the son resolved that maybe this time his dad could finally rest. Man-seong let out a deep, long sigh as he saw this scene unfold before his eyes. And this will be the end of this story for now. If you enjoyed the video, do consider clicking the like button and commenting, as it will let me know if you want a part 2, or you can watch the other recaps presented on your screen. Thank you very much for watching, have a nice day.